Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Austin, and we're here welcoming Peter Mount Shasta here in the beautiful town of Mount Shasta in Northern California, below the giant mountain of the same name. So I just wanted to give a short little introduction. We'll have just a little bit of dialogue between us, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. And I just wanted to say, I think I first learned about Peter Mount Shasta when my friend Anand shared the link to his recent Buddha at the Gas Pump interview on YouTube, which many of us have seen. And I was just really amazed by the talk and much of what Peter spoke about. And he got to meet Neem Karoli Baba, who is my guru, not in his body, in India, and Ananda Maima, who is also a great saint from India, and I have little pictures of them here. And his stories are really just inspiring and really inspired me. And I've read the sections where he talks about meeting Neem Karoli Baba and Ma, and how he came to him later, which I hope he'll narrate for us. And so Peter has lived here in Mount Shasta for many years, and he was a student of Lady Master Pearl, who George Lucas, I heard, also used to go to, which is very interesting, the man of Star Wars. And someone told me that Yoda was partially based on her, which I don't know, Peter can tell us if that's true or not, but I thought that was very interesting trivia. And she was a student of Saint Germain, which I would love, excited to continue to learn more about. And then today I just want to say, Peter brought today, this is a blanket that Neem Karoli Baba blessed with his feet. So I'm going to happily hold it while during the interview, so it's very exciting. And so then to start off with, I guess, Peter, would you like to say any words of introduction here in the beginning?
Well, the reason I'm laughing is because for the last 10 minutes we have 3 people doing tech support, getting all the cameras and the audio set up, and in preparation for me to say some words of great wisdom. And this will give you a little idea of how Neem Karoli Baba worked. Can you imagine? I was in New York and I heard Ram Dass being interviewed, and I felt Neem Karoli Baba calling me from India, so I went. I mean, it's not a light thing, go to India. So, got the plane ticket and had to find out, went over to India, got sick for a month, then had to heal, then finally found out how to get to him. So, at long last, I arrived at Maharaji's feet, waiting for the touch of enlightenment, for him to tap me on the head and put me in samadhi or something. At least what Ram Dass had, that he would tell me my dreams, and that he knew all about me, and that I would feel this tremendous love, and he would say, good boy, or do this mantra and you'll soon be enlightened, something like that. But instead he completely ignored me. I sat there for a month, maybe, actually 6 months on and off at his feet.
And what year was this?
70, 71, 70, between 71 and 72 in there. I think it was the winter of 71, summer of 70, spring of 72. And I didn't hear him speak any words of wisdom except love people and feed them, So it's sort of a little clue of how he worked, that you sit at the Guru's feet thinking he's going to do it for you, and he didn't. He makes you do the work, But at any way, I bought this. At some point, I bought a blanket for him to give it to him as a present, and I found the style that he liked, and so I went to give it to him, and he completely, again, ignored me. or he appeared to be ignoring me. He wasn't really ignoring me, but he appeared to ignore me. So I had it there. If he looked at me, I was going to hand it to him, say, Maharaji, I bought you this blanket, it's a present, you know, I love you, and so on. But he kept ignoring me, so finally I just touched it to his feet and held it there for a while. So I brought it back, and I've had it at my house for the last few years there. And one day, this was about a year ago, a woman came to visit me, and she knew nothing about Maharaji, and she said, I see this fat Indian man in a blanket sitting in your chair. She said, you disappeared, and I see this fat man. So I got a picture of Maharaji and showed it to her, and she says, that's the guy, he was sitting in your chair. You disappeared, and all I saw was Maharaji sitting there. So I thought, that's interesting. I should think some more about him, you know. And then he came to me, my birthday was a few weeks later. He came to me in a dream. That's the first time he's ever come to me in a dream. And he said, you finally got it. And I think by got it, he meant you realized it's inside, that I'm not doing it for you, you know. And then he gave me a hug, which he had never expressed any affection for me at all. In fact, the last time I saw him, he picked up a rock and threatened to throw it at me. So those stories are in my book, Search for the Guru. Yeah, all the things he put me through, funny stories, you know. In fact, even telling me my guru is Jesus Christ, you know. I thought he was swearing at me. He kept saying, Jesus Christ, and he's shaking his fist and everything. But I realized he was right. Jesus is very much with me. You don't have to, all these gurus, these great beings are working together. You know.
Yeah.
So.
I know that, was it Krishnadas said that, he said that Christ, Hanuman, and, is it Christ, Hanuman, and Krishna are one?
Something
like that.
I think he said, ask Hanuman for Christ's blessing, something like that.
There's some connection between all of that.
They're all connected.
At some level.
There's no jealousy. And what I see is when Neem Karoli Baba came to me on my birthday, he looked the same way he looked when I saw him in India, wearing the white dhoti and a great big guy, you know. And, you know, I was a little hesitant. Here's this fat, naked guy wanting to hug me, you know, but I said, well, you know, I could feel his love, so that was the important thing. But I realized he's a member of what's called the Great White Brotherhood. I changed the name to Ascended Council of Light because it's not really a brotherhood. There's many women masters as men, you know, and they're not all Caucasian either. So, but I saw that Neem Karoli Baba, Saint Germain, Jesus, Krishna, Rama, they're all this association of light. It's the family of light, that they're all working together, and they take on whatever form is necessary. You know?
So then for Maharaj, it just took you 50 years to get a hug.
It did, 50 years, yeah.
And then I was wondering if you could also speak about this, because it makes me think of it. Maharaji would always send a lot of, because you were there with a number of Western disciples of Maharaji at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ram Das and
Krishna
Das
Das,
and
Larry Brilliant, I believe, and
Jai.
Gangadhar, Jayutal. He used the name Jai Gopal and his Jayutal. Yeah.
And when you were there with him, I remember hearing stories that Maharaji would often send everyone to see Ananda Maima, because they had a close...
Or Satya Sai Baba, he sent everyone to see Sai Baba.
Oh.
In fact, that didn't happen when I was there. Bhagavan Das was there then, and he made some derogatory comment about Sai Baba because precipitating objects, he had read Ramakrishna's statement that cities where you have ability to do miraculous things, that can be an obstacle to enlightenment. So he was saying that Sai Baba obviously had not reached full enlightenment because he was preoccupied with these miracles, and so Maharaji said, "Jao, everybody go to Delhi, see Satya Sai Baba." And of course, after they experienced him, their view was quite different. Sai Baba came right up to Bhagavan Das and took the flower that he'd been holding to give to him, walked across Connaught Circle and gave him, he took the flower. He said, "You have something for me?" And Bhagavan Das was thinking, if he's real, he will know I have this flower. And he said, yeah, so then he came back to Maharaji and said, I'm sorry for what I said, In fact, one time, Ram Das made a derogatory comment about one of the Maharaji's devotees. He was on the Supreme Court in India, and Ram Das said, well, that's all Maya. He's involved with Maya. That the whole legal system, that's all illusion, Maya, and we're beyond that. And Maharaji said, Ramdas, go to the Supreme Court. I want you to spend the day there. So he had to go wherever that was. And then he saw the workings of karma, and he came back and he realized this man was very high being, that he was sort of a master, but he had to do this work in the world of being on the court, So mastery is really beyond enlightenment. You have to bring the enlightenment into daily life, into the duality. You can't just sit in the oneness. You have to still be in the world and learn to relate to other people. And of course Maharaji knew that, and he wanted other people to realize that too. He made a big joke of some of these things. We were also judgmental, like this is spiritual, that's not spiritual. And he wanted to show, I think one of Maharaji's children was actually a jet pilot in the Indian Air Force, something like that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I think so. I might be wrong about that.
Oh, interesting. Well, I know there's always the stories of King Janaka, who was realized, but serving as a king with some detachment.
Well, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna doesn't want to fight, hurt anyone. And Krishna says, you have to fight, that is your destiny, that's your dharma. I have already decided who is going to live and who is going to die, but this is your duty. So do it with God in your heart. So you can be a judge on the Supreme Court. God has already decided, or people actually made their own decision what their karma is going to be, but God is the judge, But you still have to play your role as a judge in the human plane. So
I guess that makes me think of the question of, like many of us are living in the world and trying to be spiritual and trying to figure out the right balance. How have you figured out on your path, like how to navigate all the different, being spiritual and living in the world? Like how have you found that inner guidance?
Well, when I came to Mount Shasta, I wanted to ascend, go up on, in fact, I went on the mountain and was praying to ascend. And I had a dream that night where these three masters in white robes came to me and they said, we want you to get into real estate. And I thought, I must have heard that wrong. That's a joke. Like real estate means reality, the real estate. But they actually turned out they meant the real estate profession. So they had me buying old houses and fixing them up and renting. So I became the slumlord of Dunsmuir for a few years. And I had to then bring the consciousness of the oneness that I had achieved into daily life, So I made a lot of mistakes at first, like I would just rent to spiritual people who needed a place, and I would never ask if they could pay the rent or not. And after this happened several times where I got stuck with people moving out owing me 3 months rent, I realized then I asked Saint Germain, when can I get out of real estate? And he said, when you've learned the lessons. And one of the lessons was to be responsible about money, keep your word, and learn to say no. That was the big one, because I'm a Libra, I always want to please people and say yes, and sometimes you have to set boundaries, and you have to say, I'd love to rent to you, but do you have a job? Or do you have a source of income? And if they didn't, then I'd say, I'm sorry, because I'm not going to be able to help anybody if I get stuck with all the bills. So that's part of, I saw then mastery is really learning to be in the world. It not just to sit in the oneness and bliss out, So in fact, I met yogis in India that could perform all kinds of miracles, but they couldn't be in town in a cafe. They couldn't be around women because they'd be overwhelmed with desire, or food, they were craving all these candies and sweets and stuff. So they could be enlightened sitting in Badrinath on the glacier or something, but they couldn't deal with the world, So Saint Germain has taught me, and Maharaji also, you have to be able to be in the world, relate to other people.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson that probably most of us are trying to figure out ourselves also still. And then I wanted just to get kind of the early days. So you went to India, you had this experience with Nipali Baba, and well, I love the story about Ma. So I don't know if you wouldn't mind sharing your wish when you.
Yeah, Ananda Ma.
Ananda Ma.
Oh, several of us from the satsang were living on a houseboat in Benares. I guess it's Varanasi now. Yeah. And you could rent houseboats. It was right off the Ghats where they're burning the bodies. In fact, I decided to go swimming in the Ganges one day because I heard that was a blessing, and I had to wait for body parts to float by me before I went in. I think I got a good immunization then from that. But we decided, it was New Year's Eve, to go visit Ananda Ma. Her ashram was on the banks overlooking the Ganges. So we went there, and it was one of those big ashram scenes where, we had all bought sweets and presents or flowers to give to her, and she looked very bored with the whole scene. So everyone got their turn to go up in front of her and offer the sweets and presents. And she was kind of, imagine 50 years of people worshiping your feet. That, she looked really bored with it. And I didn't get anything. I didn't have any kind of spiritual experience at all. So I made the prayer while I was sitting there. Someday I'd like to meet one of these saints alone on a country road. I didn't even say her. I just said one of these great saints that people revere. Well, it was only about 3 weeks later, I was in Jagannath Puri, again with the whole Maharaji satsang. We rented a house on the beach in Jagannath Puri. And one day I had the feeling go to the store and buy some rice, and there was a woman in front of me wearing a white sari, and she turned around and it was Ma. And I went, oh my gosh, so I quickly went next door. There was a sweet shop, and I got this Mysore pak. It's these beautiful little, very sweet things with silver foil on them. And when she came out, I gave them to her, and this time she accepted them instead of putting them in a pot. Oh, I know, before she hadn't taken it. She had just blessed it and given it back to me. That's it, when I saw her at the ashram. So this time she accepted it. That made me happy. And then she had a load of groceries in bags, and I asked her, well, I was trying to be respectful, and she was walking up the road in front of me, and I was walking like right, 2 steps behind her. And then I saw this load of groceries, and so I just went up. The normal, decent thing is I said, may I help you with the groceries? And she said, no, thank you. And then she asked me where I was from. And the funny thing is, well, she asked me where I was from, and I said the States, and I said, I'm here with Ram Dass, but I saw she thought I meant Papa Ram Dass. And I said, no, the, Harvard professor. And she went, cha, and so we walked along. We just had a great talk, She was just like motherly, very motherly. And it wasn't till later I realized that she was talking in Bengali and I was talking in English, but we understood each other perfectly. So she came to her ashram. She had an ashram there, and she went down the street there, and I realized she just wanted to be a normal woman. She had escaped. All these guys, Neem Karoli Baba would escape. It turns out he was in Jagannath Puri at the same time she was there, and they would hang out together in the Jagannath temple and, joke and tell stories and stuff, And they sort of had to go on retreat from being gurus, And she just wanted to be a normal woman, go to the store, buy some food, and go back and cook for her devotees. And later, some of the Maharaji people went to the ashram and said, we know Ma is here, we want to see her. And they said, oh, no, not here. And, but so, I guess it was the next day, I was taking a rickshaw back from the Jagannath temple, and she and several of her devotees were by the side of the road, and she saw me before I saw her, and she went like, it wasn't just namaste. Namaste means the God in me greets the God in you, but she was actually seeing the God in me. And it was such a shock, it hit me in my heart. I almost fell out of the rickshaw. I mean, I stood up, and I turned around, and the rickshaw driver was like, sit down, And it was such a powerful experience that I went back to the house, and I sat on the roof for the next 3 days meditating. I said, I want to see in myself what she was seeing. And that really was a tremendous boost on the path. It wasn't until I met Pearl that I saw you could do that consciously, that she did the same thing, and she taught me how to do that. That she would say, just feel the love and the light like a ball of sun in your heart, and just feel, I am divine love, I am the Son of God, going from my heart to your heart, and of course she would do the same thing, and then the same thing happened where I just blissed out and the room filled with light, and I saw that's something that we can all do by just turning our attention to the heart and feeling, I am love going forth, I am that which I seek is within me, and I radiate it out, which is really the meaning of namaste. And that's such a beautiful practice. It's too bad in India that's been sort of neglected now. People say hi instead. But namaste, the God in me greets the God in you. That was something very real that Ma showed me how to do, So, thou art that, thou art that. And then, actually, aham brahmasmi means I am Brahma, which is God. So the I am teachings really came from India,
Maybe we could just spend a few minutes talking about Master Pearl. So you were in India, and then you ended up coming back to the States, and do you want to just maybe give us a little background on who Master Pearl was?
Well, in India, all the experiences I had with these saints, Maharaji and Anandama, and the other saints in the Himalayas, one of whom was getting ready to leave his body consciously. And when I came back, I was in Berkeley. I was camped out on Jayutal's floor, which was very kind of him. I think I was only there a couple of days, but so I was feeling like I really don't want to be in Maya anymore. I'm not interested in being rich or famous or anything. And maybe I should leave my body. That's what I was thinking. Like, why not? I had experienced that there are higher worlds, and it's much more blissful in those worlds, you know. So, as I was thinking this ball of light came down through the ceiling in front of me, and I realize now that was Saint Germain. But out of this ball of light came a voice. It said, "Go to Muir Woods. I will meet you there." So Muir Woods was in Marin County, across the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was raining, and there was no one there in the parking lot. I was the only car. But I went for a walk, and I found a hollow tree, a redwood tree that was hollow from fire, and I got inside the tree to get out of the rain, and I was sitting there doing Vipassana meditation, but with my eyes open, looking down at the ground, observing the in-breath and the out-breath, just feeling the rise and fall of my chest. And I thought I should probably ask for permission before I leave my body, because it's a big choice, you know. But I, at that time, had not experienced the masters, that there were beings on higher planes. I thought that when you become enlightened, you just disappear into the sea of consciousness. So, but I thought, you know, there might be somebody, but I didn't see why somebody that was enlightened in the sea of bliss would be aware of me, you know. So I thought, well, I'll pray anyway. So I prayed to Jesus, and I prayed to Maharaji, and I had heard of Saint Germain. I mean, I must have prayed to 20 people. I said, if anybody up there hears me, please answer this prayer. Show me if there's a reason to stay in the body. And at that point, these 2 feet appeared in front of me. It was not somebody walking up. If someone had walked up, I would have heard the twigs breaking and things like that. So there was this young man wearing jeans in front of me, and he said, he knew my name. He said, "Peter, your prayer has been heard." And he said, "You can leave the earth if you want, and I will help you. But I want to show you something before you give me your answer." And he took me out of the physical body to this, above the earth, to this realm where beings were the I Am presence, so in India what you call the Atman. They were just balls of light emanating beautiful rainbow colors. And there was a feeling of just overwhelming bliss. And I said, this is it. This is where I want to be from now on.
Rainbow body, right?
Rainbow body, yeah. Or what in Tibetans they would call the Dharmakaya body, or the Atman. It's really your essential self, you know. And then I heard this crying coming from someplace, and it got louder and louder, and it was just a wailing, and finally it was very annoying, and I looked down, and there was the earth, this blue ball beneath my feet. It looked like about that big. And I saw that this crying was coming from the earth, and Saint Germain said, "This is what the masters hear all the time." So without thinking, my heart just went out. I said, "I want to go back and help." And he smiled, and he said, "You made the right choice." And he said, "Now we'll be working closely together, and I want you to go to Mount Shasta to receive training. The first person you meet there will tell you what to do next." And then the next thing I know, we were back in Muir Woods. I was in my physical body, and he said, "Now I will show you who I really am." And he took a few steps back, and it was like Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars. He changed in front of me from this like young hiker wearing jeans and tennis shoes and a suede jacket, which by the way was not wet even though it was raining. His clothes were not wet. He changed into this master wearing a white robe, who I recognized as Saint Germain because I'd seen his picture in the front of Unveiled Mysteries when I was in India, a guest of the Theosophical Society in Adyar, and I tried to read Unveiled Mysteries there, but I wasn't ready for it at the time, but I'd seen his picture. So anyway, I got him, he disappeared, just faded out. And it was like I'd been hit by lightning. I was so energized. I got in my car and I drove up to Mount Shasta. Now the strange thing is, there's what's called missing time, because this experience could not have been after 9 o'clock in the morning. And I got to Mount Shasta at 11. That's like at least a 5-hour drive, you know? Because people were still, there was a place called the Breakfast House on Mount Shasta Boulevard, and people were having their breakfast. It wasn't lunchtime. People were having their eggs and hash browns, and there was a sign on the door that said "No hippies allowed." The whole town was like that. And I had real long hair then, and I was wearing my white pajamas, kurta from India. And I walked in, and you could have heard a pin drop. I mean, people stopped with a fork halfway to their mouth. They were sure I was going to get thrown out, And the waitress was very smart. She motioned me to the counter and said, "What would you like?" And so when they saw that she was going to serve me and not throw me out, everyone went back to eating, But this young guy came up to me at the end and he said, "You're supposed to see this lady by the name of Pearl." And I thought, I don't know who that is, but he owned the health food store and he let me use his phone, and she said, come right up. So I went up to her house, and there was this sweet grandmotherly lady that I thought looked like Yoda, and these big eyes, and she said, "Why, dear, I've been expecting you." And I thought, how could you be expecting me? She said, "The Master Saint Germain came to me this morning and said he was sending someone to see me." And in those days, there weren't many people going to see her. And she said later that she recognized me from years before that we were introduced, before I had taken a physical body, that the Masters introduced us in the Royal Teton on New Year's Eve, that she met a lot of the people she would know later in life, and she was shown this whole group of hippies that she was going to help later on, and she recognized me that I was one of them, and now Saint Germain had sent me. And she and Jerry drove through Haight-Ashbury in the late 60s, the Summer of Love, what was it, 67, I guess? Yeah. And Jerry, her husband, who was a cowboy, was a little bit freaked out. And he was saying, "Pearl, roll up the windows, they look dangerous." And Pearl was saying, "They're not dangerous." So she had the windows down, and a woman leaned in the window and gave Pearl a bouquet of flowers. This is in Haight-Ashbury, And Pearl said, "No, Jerry, they're not dangerous." And then Saint Germain came to her and said, "These are your people." And she thought, what does that mean? Well, it was like, a few years later that those same people started showing up to see her. So, yeah, that was kind of how I met Pearl. I didn't realize that I thought you just meet her and that was it one time, and then I started getting I was supposed to work with her, so I would see her on almost a daily basis, and I would go in early in the morning. It's funny, her neighbors thought she was having an affair because her husband Jerry would go to work at like 8 in the morning. In fact, he ran this motel. That's one of the things he did. He worked at the desk.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
So then I would show up at 8:15. I'd be there for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and the neighbors were chatting to each other, what's going on. Of course, then lots of people started showing up, and she finally had to explain to them that they were coming for spiritual teaching, and she worked with the town fathers, like people on the Chamber of Commerce. She called the managers of the banks in, the real estate agents, and she said, "You really should take down those signs that say no hippies and stuff, because these are good people. They're on the spiritual path, and you'll find that some of them even have money and want to buy houses." And so I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I would sit there with my long hair in my white pajamas, and they would look at me and I would look at them. Eventually we made friends, And then I cut my hair and I started wearing normal clothes. And then the whole town changed, but it was largely through Pearl's work,
Well,
So,
thank you so much for everything you've shared. And I know time is escaping us, and I just want to give.
what's that?
I know wish it would slow down, but
Okay.
I just know we're coming maybe near the hour, and I want to give anyone in the audience a chance to ask questions. So we're gonna.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Peter, I want to know what is your advice to those of us who are still looking for a guru in the physical form? And also, are the IM teachings for everyone? Can you tell us a little bit about the IM teachings, and are they for everyone?
Oh, absolutely, for everyone. If you want to find a guru in physical form, look in the mirror. Everything you need to know is in there. And, also, not only Maharaji, but all the gurus are aware of you. So there is not a moment. First of all, your Atman, the I Am Presence, knows your every thought. So when you go within and you say, Dear God, or whatever name you want to call God, you can say Hanuman or Maharaji, whatever name, or Brahman, any name you call God, your I Am Presence will hear you, and the answer will come. It might come through a book, it might come from a dog even. You don't know, but the guru has heard you, is hearing you all the time. Everyone on earth has a guru. But sometimes it comes in a form, but like when I met Maharaji, he didn't teach me anything verbally. It was just sitting in his presence. And actually there is a great movie about, what is it called? This guy pretended to be a guru, and he made a movie about it later. And he wore the white clothes. This was what the heck was the name of that? But Kumare, it was called Kumare, and he helped a lot of people. And he knew the basic Hindu teachings. He was Indian, but he was born in New Jersey. But his grandmother used to chant every morning, so he knew the whole routine. And after 6 months, he told everyone he was really not enlightened. But a lot of people became more enlightened just through worshiping him as the guru, because he was the mirror for them. Mm-hmm. They needed a body in front of them. So I think there are many people have become enlightened just through the devotion to the guru. It's the story of Buddha's tooth. That this woman wanted Buddha's tooth. She said, if I had Buddha's tooth, I would become enlightened. So her son was a merchant. He went on a trip, and he was going to he told his mother, I will bring you Buddha's tooth. Well, he forgot about it. When he came back into town, he saw a dead dog by the side of the road. He took a rock and he got a tooth, and he had a beautiful silk handkerchief. He wrapped the tooth up in this handkerchief, tied it with a ribbon. He gave it to his mother and said, Mom, I brought you Buddha's tooth. And she went, oh, I'm so grateful. She, raised it to her head. I'm so grateful. She put this tooth on her altar, did puja to it, meditated on the tooth, that this is the tooth of the Buddha. In 6 months, she became fully enlightened, and she ascended, attained a rainbow body.
Wow. Because
of her faith, It's the same with the guru. Even fully enlightened guru cannot do it for you. Maharaji didn't teach people to meditate, or people said, oh, I want to study meditation. He'd say, Jao, go to do it, go to Bodh Gaya, take the course, But he made fun of them, So I hate to disappoint you, but the important thing, this leads to the I am, because feel I am the presence of the Guru. It's in there, and just try to feel it. Like Maharaji's heart and my heart are one. That's really the I am. Whether you say Maharaji or Saint Germain or Christ, I am the presence of the living Christ. Now I can feel that in my heart. So that is the Guru right there. You can feel it in your heart also. Whatever name does it for you, you can say Rama. Like Maharaj, who was Maharaji's Guru? Rama. He would go Ram, 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 and that would invoke that for him. So, Maharaji was devoted to Rama. Now, I've tried that. It doesn't do as much for me. For me, if I say God, that does it more. Or Jesus, But you find the word that invokes it for you. So, maybe with a mantra, like Om Ram 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 Ram, that might do it. Or Shri chanting the bhajans, like you're a very bhakti person. So as you're chanting and you see the picture of the Guru, that's awakening the God presence in you, But the activity of the Guru is going on every second of the day. You just have to look and say, what does that mean? Everything is here for a purpose. So I hope that answers a little bit. See, you asked about the I am. Before you can really practice the I am, you have to ask, who am I? Because if you keep going like, I am God, I am God, I am God, you can become an egomaniac. You know what I mean? That happened to a lot of people. They think I'm God, but nobody else is, So you have to ask, who am I? You find that I, and you realize that I is in everybody. So when you're saying I am, you're invoking the universal consciousness. So I hope that helps.
Hey Peter, namaste.
Namaste.
My question is, what's your point of view about karma and free will?
About what?
Karma and free will.
What's your point of view?
Well, we had free will at one time. But then as soon as you make the first action, karma actually means action. It's not good or bad. You can have good karma. So then after that action, there are consequences to every action. If you throw a pebble into the pond, it sends out ripples. You can't take the stone back. It has an effect on the entire pond, So whatever you do in life, it has ripples that go out and affect everybody. And then those ripples come back to you. They hit the shore, then they come back, So every action creates a reaction. So that's what we call karma. That's really a result of your free will. But then you don't have 100% free will anymore. You have to experience the things that you sent out coming back. Now you can transmute some of that through doing more good actions, through, and also, I think the grace of the masters also, and the violet flame, things like that. But that's part of what we're doing here. And the karma is actually intrinsically connected to the spiritual path. Those are the lessons we need to learn, So it's not one or the other, free will or karma. They're both interconnected. I hope that helps.
Yeah, my brother wants to just do pranam to you. That's why he asked to just do pranam. Really?
If you love your friend.
If you love your friend. Okay, I had a question for you. The violet light you speak of, the secret fires, what are they? I don't know if they are the same thing, but they're lights that are different than the lights we usually see.
Yeah, they're all aspects of consciousness. When you meditate, there is a violet light that naturally emanates from you that's very purifying, and again, India, they talk about the Sapta Rishis, the 7 rays that came forth from Brahman at the beginning of at the beginning of this yuga, not even this yuga, beginning of this kalpa. From consciousness came forth 7 fires, 7 sacred aspects of consciousness. And they're in everything, they are everywhere. But there's certain beings who embody those qualities. There's seven of these qualities. It's not really that helpful, I don't think, to worry about them. It doesn't really help you find God, but it's interesting to know about them, I think. And so violet is one of those, and that's the quality that transmutes negative karma. And it purifies, it can heal people, because it raises things to a higher frequency. It increases your frequency. So like there's this book I wrote, I Am the Violet Tara. Violet Tara is a yidam, she's an aspect of yourself, an aspect of consciousness, and she embodies the violet light. And you can invoke her to heal the earth, to heal humanity, to heal yourself, Then, of course, you have all the other colors, the blue light, things like that.
Could you share a bit more about what stages are what colors?
Well, it gets kind of complicated. I don't think we really have the time for that, but they're all contained in the white light. If you study theosophy, they go into this in great detail. Like, I don't really spend much time on this because it takes you into the head, into a lot of brain activity, and which I find is not really conducive to spiritual awakening. In fact, I lived with a yogi near Nainital in the Kumon Hills there, and I had a theosophy book with me that talked about, it had a diagram of all the lokas and the rays and the masters, and I showed him, it had a chart that would fold out. It was the whole chart of reality, and I showed it to him. He says, you're never going to find God like that, So I hate to disappoint you, but you can ask the guru within, I would like to know more about these rays. I am being shown about these rays. And then maybe a book will come to you, or you'll have a spontaneous realization. Like, look at the rainbow. The rainbow comes from the white light. I think everything you need to know about it is in the rainbow. Like, you meditate on red. How does red make you feel? Makes you feel energized. So that's something. Gold has a different feeling. Yellow, green. And they're all related to the planets and so on. So the important thing is really, though, to bring it back to the heart. Maharaji never talked about these things, the rays or anything. In fact, I've said more than he probably said in 10 years in this hour. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Sir, vanakkam. There is no question. I'm requesting your blessings on the day. Today, now the time is around 11:30 p.m. Because of my karma, I am meeting you through the net. So please bless me to develop my spiritual path.
He has a problem with his neck?
No, he just asked you to bless him with help on the spiritual path.
Ah,
He's in India. Chennai.
yeah. Well, I say, I am the presence of God blessing you, seeing to it you get what you need, and that you become enlightened in perfect divine order. And I call on the Ascended Masters to bless you, not only you, but everybody who watches this video. I am the Great White Brotherhood, the Ascended Council of Light in action in the lives and worlds of all those who watch this video. So when I say that, that is not me, the ego called Peter. That is the I am that I am, the God presence, the Atman, the higher self, which is one with your higher self and one with all the gurus and the masters. We call them to come forth now. We call on your higher self to come forth and awaken you to who you truly are, a God being. And I say,
Thank you so much.
I am being blessed with it. What you do to another, you receive back 10 times yourself. This is the great key, that if you are having a problem with something, go out and help somebody else who has the same problem. So in giving a blessing or in invoking a blessing, I am being blessed, you know. In fact, I think some gurus become enlightened by their disciples. When I gave a workshop, I was getting such a blessing because people were saying, oh, here's a man who's close to Saint Germain. So for 2 days they're thinking that, and they're holding me in the light, that this is some great being here. So what I started doing at the end of the workshop, I would have everybody take a turn, come up front. And then I asked them to give their blessing to everybody else. And these people got so energized they could hardly sit still.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel and I know we're getting close to the end here, but I just wanted to ask, my kids had a question.
Okay.
So my son David, he asked, what event or set of events caused you to start doing or believing in yoga?
In yoga?
Yeah, my son's 12.
Well, okay, that's a great question. I was an atheist. I grew up in a very materialistic place. And I prayed and I never had experience of God. My prayers were not answered. And I didn't, it seemed, I thought, if there's a just God, why is the world such a mess? So I didn't understand about karma and all that stuff. But I was living in New York City, and I found it very difficult to live there physically. My health was suffering. Someone said you should do yoga. They meant hatha yoga, So I started doing yoga, and my first teacher was actually, I think, a 16-year-old girl at a free university. The class cost, it was nothing. You had to register for $5. But the very first asana I did was like tense the legs and then let them fall to the ground. I felt energy going through my body. And that's the first time I experienced energy separate from just, it's just absolute energy. So this is amazing. And I left that class very energized. I went to the bookstore. I said, what's your best book on yoga? They gave me this book by Swami Vivekananda about Ramakrishna. Then I got the Biography of Ramakrishna by M. Then that things really took off. Then one day I was doing yoga, and at the end, would do savasana, the corpse pose. So I was lying there on the ground, and I don't know if it was Maharaji, some guru gave me an experience of Satchitananda, which is like, kind of bliss consciousness. And I went, whoa, that book is true. There is something out, there is such a thing as enlightenment, So it's just my personal, but it started out just for health, just to do something good. And then that opened up the spiritual gates to experience. So I never did anything. I tried everything. I tested. My father was a scientist, And he said, don't believe anything that you don't test yourself. So I tested everything, and I followed the things that gave me results.
Anyone else in the group have a question? I just want to make sure everyone has a chance.
Just want to say thank you.
Mm.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I would like I say one thing in parting.
Yeah.
The purpose of life, one of the purposes is to get the ego, the identification with the ego crushed. So people go, I'm on the spiritual path, but I'm suffering so much. You know, especially now, what people are going through, is to help break the identification with the ego. Like, I can only be happy if I can go out and hug people on the street, or go to my favorite club, or go to the bar, or go whatever. And so we're all going through frustration. You know, yesterday my landlord had people replacing the roof. At 7 o'clock in the morning, reggae music on the roof and hammers, bang, 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 bang. So I'm somebody who likes to be in a very quiet place, to meditate, be at peace, be in harmony with nature. 7 o'clock in the morning, bang, bang, bang. And I'm thinking, how could God allow this? This is my sacred temple here. And then I had to laugh because I thought, you know, that is just your ego, the human self that is upset by noise and having your privacy disturbed. I usually would meditate at 7 o'clock in the morning, and here are these people banging on my roof. So I said, this is all part of my growth into mastery. You have to be able to be anywhere at any time without being triggered by things, you know? To see that's my human self that's upset, that has judgments, that gets angry and all that. But I am not that. I am something else. I am the presence of the living God. I am the consciousness of enlightenment that is separate from the ego, from all these material things. You know, so if you're suffering, just say, this is a part of my training in becoming a master.
Oh, I really needed that. That was really helpful for me. Well, thank you so much, Peter. Really appreciate all of your time and being with us today. And thank you for everyone joining and everyone
here
helping.
And I would to thank you, Jennifer. Your coming here and asking me to talk about Raji has been a blessing to me, and I know you're helping very many people. So thank you for all the work you're doing.